Here in Los Angeles, of course, when I always talk about, such a dynamic economy that we have and how prominent our small businesses are in that economy. So I like to say, look how powerful they are because they fuel such a big part of the economy. We have looked and said here in Los Angeles, and just if you look at LA County alone, about 90% of businesses have less than 20 employees. And I think that's reflective in so many places that I go where I see how the small businesses play such an integral part of whatever industry it might be here in Los Angeles. I think the Los Angeles economy is very diverse. There's many industry segments that have a real significant presence. While we might not have headquartered companies here, all those companies are here because their market is here and talent and the workforce is here. So that's what makes our economy so unique and so powerful. Highest concentration of immigrant-owned businesses, highest concentration of international businesses that are here. So it really is a global economy because we have things like the port complex, which includes both Los Angeles and Long Beach. So what I find is many enterprises, many organizations, if they're large in size, they care very much about the small business ecosystem because they know that they rely on that supply chain and that those supply chains are very important. And, many of them are small businesses.
You made a very good point too that we have a very strong immigrant population, and
Mhm.
a lot of them are the business owners here in Los Angeles County. Is what are you doing? Are you able to help them in any way secure financing? Because I know that financing is always a
Mhm.
big issue for any small business.
Yeah, so the way we work within that small business lane, you really have to divide it up between, there are small businesses that have, the capacity of like a large organization. They can contract with major, public entities or private organizations. And then you have sort of that middle sector of small businesses that are in the game right now. They're, trying to get all their certifications. They're doing, a lot of business development type of opportunities. They're ready to go. And then you would have let me just refer to them as micro enterprises, but much smaller organizations that nonetheless have a tremendous power in the economy. And so what we try to do is understand what are the needs for all those different levels of small businesses. If you're a micro enterprise, capital is always a very important aspect of growth for all small businesses. But if you're in a micro enterprise, the traditional banking route might not be the option for you. But we have CDFIs, the Community Development Financial Institution Network. And so we build very close alignment with them, partnerships with them, so that we can bring those resources to the table, right? And, our bank partners, all of them, have tremendous programs and initiatives to help small businesses. So we, definitely work with them to make sure that those that information and those resources that our small business community is aware of what's available to them. So the technical assistance, the capacity building will always include an access to capital component because if we're trying to grow our small businesses, we know that capital is the number one issue.
And we have a couple of big events coming up here in LA, World Cup
Mhm.
and the Olympics. What is what does that mean for the small businesses and also those medium to large size businesses here in LA?
Well, for Los Angeles, it's a very unique period of time, something that is, you haven't seen in any other city or region, having the Olympics and Paralympic Games in 2028. But we even look at it bigger than that. We look at this era of global sports. This year in 2026, we're going to have the FIFA World Cup. Next year, there's a Super Bowl. And then the year after the Olympics, there's another Super Bowl, and I know that I'm missing a few other global events in there. But the way we look at that is an opportunity for all of Los Angeles to participate. Most of those initiatives or those events have a small business component to them. We actually have an initiative that we call it Get in the Game LA. And Get in the Game is about, I always say it's like a call to action. Like, you need to know that all these activities are happening here in Los Angeles, that it means opportunity for small businesses, but you have to be prepared. You have to be ready. You have to know that, there are certain requirements that, will be part of a procurement process, for example, or that there are other ways that small businesses can participate. If the FIFA games are going to happen here and there are fan fest zones that are designated, and your small business is in the transit line on the way to the stadium, you should know that. You should know what days there will be heavy traffic and heavy volume so that your inventory levels are ready, whether it's a small store, a floor shop, or what have you. Those are all things that we should be prepared for, to understand what is happening in Los Angeles, because it's definitely a lot of activity that can yield economic benefit for small businesses.